All right, good morning, everyone. This is day 4 of our Cloud Practitioner Prep Week. This is going to be our final day, and it's all about putting the pieces together. We will be going over well-architected framework and exam strategy. So we'll explore, so on the AWS exam, you might see it as WAF, so WAF. I know the acronym can also, you can think of a firewall, but in AWS's case, when you see WAF, it's talking about the well-architected framework. And the well-architected framework is pretty much a set of best practices, design principles, and architectural guidelines created by AWS to help build secure, efficient, cost-effective, and sustainable systems in the cloud. Its purpose is to provide a consistent approach for evaluating and improving architecture using proven AWS and industry best practices. Uh, it contains 6 pillars. So by following this framework, you will increase your operational excellence, security, reliability, performance efficiency, cost optimization, and sustainability. So that's just a quick introduction of the WAF. So we'll be exploring that, which shows up in the multiple exam scenarios, especially around best practices, cost, performance, and resilience. We'll also break down disaster recovery models, and that is a standardized strategy that orgs use to restore IT systems, data, and operations after a disruptive event, such as like a system failure, natural disasters, cyber attacks, etc. So we'll be going over disaster recovery and clarify what each of the 6 pillars means. Uh, what I just went over with the WAF. So operational excellence, security, reliability, performance efficiency, cost optimization, and sustainability. So if you haven't figured out already, the key terms are the well-architected framework, disaster recovery models, and then the 6 pillars. So we will be going over those, and then after the lecture, you guys will take your will take a practice exam. Learning objectives, describe the purpose of the WAF, identify the 6 pillars and key trade-offs for each, understand cost optimization and sustainability for best practices, choose appropriate disaster recovery strategies. For example, pilot light versus multi-site. We will be going over those and build a final exam mindset and strategy for success on the cloud practitioner exam. Any questions before we get started on the lesson 1? Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started. So lesson 1, introduction to the WAF. So basic summary, the well-architected framework helps cloud architects build secure, high-performing, resilient, and efficient infrastructure using the 6 pillars. They each represent a set of best practices to follow, and it is referenced in the exam. So you will definitely see this. The WAF is a structured approach AWS provides to help you design and evaluate cloud workloads. It follows best practices and it helps you follow best practices in architecture, and it ensures security, reliability, and cost efficiency. So if you're using AWS, you will be using it regardless, and it's a good framework to follow. Our core goal is help teams, or its core goal is to help teams build better cloud architectures using consistent principles and decision-making tools. If you know this, you will be able to decide on which approaches to take uh, when creating your infrastructure. How it works has 6 pillars, and each pillar has its own set of best practices, questions, and trade-off considerations. These aren't rules, but they help you ask the right questions. So for part of the reliability pillar. If you're creating an infrastructure, you might ask yourself, how do we design for failure? If you're looking at the cost optimization pillar, you might ask yourself, how do we avoid unnecessary cost? And again, we'll go more into the pillars, I think, in the second lesson. So trusted advisor, AWS trusted advisor, which is a resource, and well-architected tool, which is another resource within AWS. We'll look at the differences between those. Trusted Advisor is a tool from AWS that helps you optimize your AWS environment by checking it against AWS best practices. So it continuously evaluates your account and provides recommendations in areas involving the six pillars pretty much. So things such as cost savings, performance, security, fault tolerance, quotas, and operational excellence. So in other words, use cases for AWS Trusted Advisor is reducing AWS bills, identifying security gaps within your system, ensuring high availability. So if something goes down, you'll have another server that's up that can keep operations going, preparing for audits and compliance reviews, and monitoring AWS resource quotas. The For the well-architected tool, it's a guided best practice driven service that helps you continuously improve your AWS workloads by identifying risks and providing practical steps to fix them. So it guides you through a structured assessment based on AWS best practices and helps you identify risks, gaps, and recommended improvements across the WAF6 pillars. So if we go over these bulletin points to summarize what I just said, for AWS Trusted Advisor, it's a service that checks your account against core best practices, and it evaluates areas like cost, performance, fault tolerance, security, and service limits, and provides recommendations to fix that. For the well-architected tool, it's a self-assessment tool in the AWS console that helps you review and improve your workload against the six pillars. And the output includes risks and suggested improvements as well. So these are two tools you can use to help you follow best practices using the WAF framework and its six pillars. So under the framework, we have the six pillars, the AWS well-architected tool resource, and the AWS trusted advisor resource. Let's go over some practice questions. What is the purpose of the AWS well-architected framework? Just shout out the answer.
C.
C. Yep. So the purpose is to guide cloud architecture best practices. So it's a framework for evaluating and improving cloud architecture. Which tool helps you perform a self-assessment of your workload using the six pillars?
C again.
Let's check. C. Yep. This tool helps review workloads against the framework. We just went over well-architected tool and trusted advisor. So that is the correct answer. What is AWS Trusted Advisor primarily used for?
C.
C.
Oh,
I heard CMB. Which one do you guys think?
C.
yeah, C.
All right. You're switching your answer, Troy? All right, let's check for C. All right, yep. C, recommending best practices in your AWS account. So you
Seeing a
check for,
pattern.
what was that?
I'm seeing a pattern.
Yep. So it checks for cost optimization, performance, security, and more. And how many pillars are in the framework?
Delta.
Six.
Yep, six pillars are operational excellence, security, reliability, performance efficiency, cost optimization, and sustainability. So, what do you guys think on this one? Which pillar focuses on minimizing waste and matching supply with demand?
Delta.
Delta?
Cost optimization.
Yeah, bravo.
We got B and D. Let's see which one it is. B, cost optimization. So this pillar is all about controlling spending and using resources efficiently. So it is cost optimization because you're trying to minimize, uh, if you see like minimize waste or supply with demand, it probably has to do with cost optimization. So just look for those keywords. So summary, uh, you now understand what the well-architected framework is and why it matters, how trusted advisor and well-architected tools support it, why the six pillars form the backbone of the AWS architecture best practices, and how this framework maps to real-world and exam scenarios. So let's go. Any questions on lesson 1 before we move to lesson 2? Okay, we'll go ahead and go to lesson 2 for the six pillars overview. So this lesson speaks on the six pillars and how it guides the design for operation reliability, security, efficiency, and sustainability for systems in the cloud. So we just went over what the well-architected framework is. So it's AWS's blueprint for cloud success. It provides best practices. So whenever you see best practices and design principles for architecture, just think about the well-architected framework. So it helps teams build systems that are secure, high-performing, resilient, efficient, cost-effective, and the newest one, environmentally responsible. So pretty much all the good stuff that you would want. At the heart of this framework are the six pillars, each representing a distinct area of architectural excellence. So again, the six pillars are operational excellence, security, reliability, performance efficiency, cost optimization, and sustainability. Operational excellence focuses on running workloads effectively and continuously improving operations. Security focuses on protecting data, systems, and assets. Reliability ensures workloads function correctly, recovers quickly, and can withstand disruptions. Performance efficiency ensures your architecture uses IT and cloud resources efficiently. And then cost optimization focuses on avoiding unnecessary costs and ensuring financial efficiency. Sustainability, for the last pillar, focuses on minimizing environmental impacts of cloud workloads. So we have a chart here that goes over the six pillars at a glance. And the focus area is pretty much summarizing what I just said for each one. So operational excellence, run, monitor, and improve systems. Security protects data, systems, and assets. Following the reliability ensures workloads work as intended over time. Following performance efficiency ensures that you're using computing resources effectively. Following the cost optimization pillar ensures that you avoid waste and control your spending. And then the sustainability pillar ensures that you reduce environmental impacts of your workloads. So some example AWS concepts that or key terms that you might see within the exam that you could probably that could you could probably use to help you find your correct answer involving the pillars. So for operational excellence, we have automation, observability, and quick rollbacks. By following these concepts, you will be able to ensure that this pillar is followed. For security, we have IAM, modifying that, encryption, and CloudTrail help you follow this pillar. Multi-availability zone. I don't know if you guys remember when we were setting up the VPCs with the subnets, how we put them in different availability zones. So like if we were in US East 1, it'll be like US East 1A and for one subnet, and then the other subnet would be US East 1B. So that just ensures that you have high availability in case one of those subnets go down. So that's what multi-AZ means in this case. You can also have backups for reliability and failover. For performance efficiency, you can use an auto scaling group. So auto scaling means pretty much if you set up a CloudWatch dash or CloudWatch metric or a dashboard or alarm for an EC2 instance, and you set it for CPU utilization or something. If it reaches a certain threshold, it'll create a new EC2 instance for you so that it is horizontally scaling. So you start out with one EC2, then if there's too much, you're using too much CPU, it'll create another EC2 so that the systems are scaling and are reliable as well. Right sizing also helps with performance efficiency, and managed services helps with performance efficiency. For cost optimization, we have S3 lifecycle policies. So S3, which is pretty much a object holder resource in AWS, has different types of buckets that you can utilize depending on your use case. So I believe it has a standard S3 bucket, has I think it's intelligent tiering is what it is. Let me
The
yeah.
one where it'll look at how often the data is accessed and put it in more cost-effective places if it's not versus
Yep.
is.
Yep. Yeah, so this one is pretty much automatically moves data between tiers based on access patterns. Pretty much what Nick said. And then you have your S3 standard IA. So IA stands for infrequent access, for data accessed less often. And then you get into your archive type tiers of S3 buckets. So S3 Glacier and uh, S3 Glacier Deep Archive. So it's for pretty much for archiving data. It's very cheap storage, but it's slower retrieval. So when you're trying to choose your S3 bucket, you're pretty much kind of looking at uh, things you want to consider is your retrieval time and your cost. So going back to the S3 standard, I didn't go over what that was. That's the most, I guess, basic form of S3. So it's for frequently accessed data. Going back to the S3 lifecycle policies, these are pretty much manually configured configurations set up by the customer. So if you have data, you could say you could create a lifecycle policy saying that if there's data in your S3 standard that hasn't been retrieved in 30, 60, 90 days, you can move it over to the S3 Glacier Deep Archive to archive it because it's not being accessed, which will help you save your costs. But again, since it's in the archive bucket, it will be a slower retrieval. Whereas in the S3 standard, the cost is higher, but it's also faster to retrieve that data. Now, the difference between an S3 lifecycle policy and intelligent tiering is the S3 intelligent tiering is fully automated by AWS, and the lifecycle policy is configured by the customer or user itself. So that's the key difference of how to think about the difference between the two, because they both do move data to different buckets. Also, another thing to help you with your cost optimization pillar is setting up a billing alert. For sustainability, just using energy efficient instances and green regions. So whenever you're creating an EC2 instance, you can just go and you can select a different type for more energy efficient use. We'll be quickly going over that too. So 6 pillars are operational excellence, security, reliability, performance efficiency, cost optimization, and sustainability. To go over their use cases or their descriptions one more time. Operational excellence focuses on operations and improvement. So can your systems recover quickly? Are you automating common tasks? This will help you follow the best practices for operational excellence. Ask yourself these questions right here. You can use tools like CloudWatch, CloudFormation, and CodeDeploy for monitoring and automation. Security ensures that your systems and data are secure and protected. This means managing access, encrypting data, and logging activity. Services like IAM, KMS, and CloudTrail support this pillar. Reliability keeps systems available and functioning through failures. Emphasize backups, failovers, and auto-healing architecture. You can use multi-AZ deployment, Route 53 for DNS failover, and auto-scaling groups. For cost optimization, minimize costs without sacrificing performance. The key is understanding usage patterns and turning off or archiving what you don't need. Archiving, we were talking about S3 buckets. So you can leverage Cost Explorer, S3 lifecycle policies, and savings plans. For sustainability, which is the newest pillar, I think they added this in 2021. It's focused on minimizing environmental impact, optimizing workloads to consume less energy, and choose greener regions. Because running servers is a hefty process. So you can choose Graviton powered instances for your EC2s, so that it can minimize environmental impact. You can reduce idle compute, and region selection matters. I think we went over config and CloudTrail. All right, which of the following is not one of the 6 pillars? Which
C.
one?
Charlie.
Charlie? Let's check. Yep. Elasticity is a cloud benefit, not a pillar. Which pillar focuses on automation, monitoring, and continuous improvement?
A. Oh,
A.
hold on. B. My bad. B.
Operational excellence, yeah.
You said which one?
Bravo.
Bravo.
Operational excellence, yeah.
Yep. And, correct. Operational excellence. And it is operational excellence because, again, we are looking at the 6 pillars. So if you see automation, monitoring, those are used for operations. And for continuous improvement, you can kind of just the excellence, so operational excellence. Question 3, which AWS service helps fulfill the security pillar by auditing API activity? Which one you guys think? C. I heard C.
CloudTrail.
CloudTrail. Let's see. Yep, it is C. CloudTrail. So CloudTrail tracks API calls for governance and compliance. You'll most likely see, well, you'll see all these in the exam, but let me go over what the difference between config and CloudTrail is real quick, as it's easy to get those mixed up. So AWS config tracks configuration changes of your AWS resources. So keyword resources, like an EC2 instance type change, and it's focused on the resource itself. AWS CloudTrail tracks API calls / actions made in your AWS account, like who did what, when, and from where. And this is focused on the user itself. So AWS config is pretty much for tracking changes in resource. And then AWS CloudTrail tracks the changes done by a user. So it's kind of resource versus user type. Question 4, which pillar is concerned with minimizing your environmental impact?
Sustainability, Charlie.
Yep, and the keyword there is environmental, or I guess the phrase minimizing environmental impact. So that would be sustainability. Question 5, which practice best supports the reliability pillar? Think of high
Bravo.
availability. Yep. Multi availability zone deployments ensure that you have high availability. So that is the correct answer. This ensures availability during failures. So you now understand what each pillar of the framework means, how AWS service aligns with each pillar, and which pillar maps to key architectural decisions and exam questions. Remember, on the exam, questions may describe a situation or failure and ask which pillar was violated or which AWS service supports a specific principle. So key thing to take away from this is just keep in mind of like different phrases or words like minimizing environmental impact, auditing API activity. If it's talking about auditing API activity, always look for CloudTrail. Automation monitoring and continuous improvement. If it's asking for the pillar, just think about operations and excellence. So operational excellence, just trying to make sure your operations are the best they can be. And then just for this one, just memorize, I guess, the 6 pillars. So operations, security, reliability, performance, cost, and sustainability. Just look for key terms pretty much to help you find the correct answer and cross off ones that you know will be incorrect. Any questions on lesson 2? Okay, we'll go ahead to lesson 3. For lesson 3, we will be talking about disaster recovery and high availability. So disaster recovery is about ensuring business continuity in the face of failures. AWS provides multiple strategies to recover workloads and quickly and cost effectively. So what is disaster recovery? Disaster recovery in AWS refers to the strategies and services uh, used to restore access and functionality to IT systems after a failure or outage. So for this, there's the key phrase right here: restores access and functionality to IT systems after a failure or outage. And the key goal is to reduce downtime and data loss measured by the RTO, which is recovery time objective, and the RPO, recovery point objective. These are key terms as well that you will see on the exam. So RTO is the long definition is the maximum amount of time your application, system, or service can be down after a disaster before it causes unacceptable impact to the business. So in summary, it is how quickly a system must be restored after a failure or outage. And then recovery point objective is the maximum acceptable amount of data loss measured in time. It tells you how much data you can afford to lose in the event of a failure. So how much data loss is acceptable from that failure. So recovery time objective is for the time that a system requires to be restored. Recovery point is how much data uh, data loss is acceptable. I'm trying to think of a better way to remember that, but just if I think of something, I'll say it out. But these are key terms to remember. Just make sure you know the difference.
The recovery point would be like if you're gonna accept 1 day's loss of data. So like your systems are only gonna be brought back to a current state of a day ago, like
Mhm.
in terms of like how much data.
Yep.
He's got that free one then.
What did you say? Okay.
Oh, sorry. I was just giving an example of the data.
Oh no, yeah. I agree with you. Yep.
So tied to your backup plans then?
Yeah. Kind of like an incident response type thing.
Got it.
So DR strategies, it's ordered by cost and complexity. So we mentioned we were gonna go over some disaster recovery strategies. We'll be going over 4. So backup and restore, pilot light, warm standby, and multi-site. So the description of backup and restore is so data. So for backup and restore, it's the simplest recovery strategy you can take. So you take backups of data. So this can be snapshots or S3 objects within the S3 bucket because you can save data over there. Uh, Another example is databases and restore them to a new environment when needed. Uh, Pilot Lite is a minimal version of your environment. It's always running in the cloud. So critical servers and databases pretty much are still running within the cloud. And in case of disaster, you scale it up to full production. Warm standby is a scaled down, always running copy of your environment. And that always exists in the cloud. During a disaster, it can be scaled up to handle full production traffic. And the quick key difference of how you can think about the difference between pilot light and warm standby is that you can the pilot light strategy just runs the critical core services like databases. So and then while warm standby is running the entire environment. So I guess one way you can look at it is pilot light. I don't know why, but when I think of that, I think of a lantern, like just like a small little lit candle, but that candle can light a big fire or for in terms of your system, like you can build a bigger fire, I guess. And then warm standby is So it's you can think of the word standby. There's already something pre-made, an entire environment that you can quickly run if something happens. Multi-site, it's a fully running production environment in 2 or more regions slash sites. So this kind of just is for high availability. Traffic can be load balanced across those regions slash sites. If one site fails, the other takes over automatically. So again, the description for backup and restore is data is backed up and restored manually when needed. Pilot-like core systems, like a database, run in the cloud with everything else off. Warm standby, you have a full environment always running, but it is scaled down. And then multi-site, full production environment in multiple regions. So these are ordered in terms of its cost, with backup and restore being the cheapest and multi-site being the most expensive. Let's go over, I guess, the levels for RTO and RPO, ranging from low to high. So low RTO is the system must be, or let's go over high. So a high RTO means that the system can be down for a longer period. So the implications are recovery can be slower or manual, and this allows you to have lower cost and simpler architecture. A high RPO means loss of more data is acceptable. So this means less frequent backups or snapshots are sufficient. This kind of ties into what Patrick was saying with like you can back up with data in past day or 2 days. It really depends on what your system needs. And the implications of high RPO. So it just gives you a lower cost. So for high RTO and high RPO, this means that using this backup and restore strategy, your system can be down for a longer period. So it's not as you don't need to get it back up as quickly as you need to, or you don't need to get it back up quickly. And then high RPO for this means that loss of more data is acceptable. And this saves you the most money. For pilot light, so it is for RTO, it is medium range, or yeah, it is a medium. So it's the balance between low and high. So you can't have it you can't have your system be down for too long, but you do have some wiggle room there. For low RPO, for this strategy, you're able to have uh, li little data loss is acceptable. So that means you need frequent backups, replication, or real-time syncing, but it will increase your cost. For warm standby, we have a low and low for both. So that means you need to restore the system very quickly, and that little data loss is acceptable. For multi-site, for RTO, is very low. So it like very low means like you can barely have you can't even have a downtime. So that's what the high availability means. So that's why you have it running in different regions. And then RPO, you can have uh very little data loss as well. Um So I hope I explained that correctly. Are there any questions on RTO and RPO? Okay. So the exam often asks which strategy is most cost effective, or which minimizes downtime. So if you see those, you'll probably see RTO and RPO, and you'll know it's one of those two. Cost is for the RPO, or no, cost is for well, it's for both. So these are the four different strategies again: backup and restore, pilot light, warm standby, multi-site. We'll be going over high availability versus disaster recovery. So high availability keeps systems online, and disaster recovery restores systems after failure. So the one way to think about this is high availability is pretty much for mitigating system failure. And then disaster recovery is what uh, actions you take after it has failed. So this mitigation, and then this is restoring. Example concepts for high availability is multi-availability zone. It says RDS right here because within RDS you can set them up in different availability zones. So it gives you high availability if just in case one goes down, you still have the other. You can also use load balancers so that it ensures that traffic only reaches the healthy targets. Disaster recovery, we have S3 backups, so backing up your data and cross-region failover. AWS services that help with both high availability and disaster recovery are S3 Glacier for archiving and backup storage. That helps with disaster recovery. RDS multi-availability zone is built-in failover for databases. That's for high availability. Route 53 is DNS failover and health checks. So that's for high availability. Cloud Endure continuous replication for disaster recovery. Of course, disaster recovery. Elastic load balancer distribute across healthy targets. That's for high availability. And then EC2 auto scaling. It recreates failed instances automatically. That's for high availability. Practice question. Question 1. Which disaster recovery strategy has the lowest cost but longest recovery time?
Backup and restore.
Let's go ahead and see. Yep, backup and restore, cheapest option, but also takes the longest to recover. Question 2, what AWS feature supports high availability for a database?
Charlie.
Yep. So the RDS, the database, and then so looking at this key term database, you see RDS, high availability, you see multi-AZ. So multi-AZ provides built-in failover for databases. Question 3, you want a low RTO, cost-effective way to keep a minimal version of your environment online. Which strategy is best? Remember, minimal version of environment.
Set warm.
I would say
the
pilot
answer.
light.
So we got warm standby and pilot light. Let's go ahead and see what it is.
Pilot light. Yeah.
Pilot light. So pilot light keeps the essential services ready to scale up.
So
So
that's a cost. So the key there was the distinction just in cost.
yeah, so you can look at cost and then also looking at
Minimal.
yeah,
Yeah.
minimal
That's
version
what
of
triggered
the
it in my brain,
environment.
Troy, was the minimal word.
Minimal. Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Yep.
Thanks.
So if you see minimal of your environment, it'll be pilot light. Because remember, what I was talking about with like a lantern, just a small fire, is just enough to keep it lit. Question 4, what's the key difference between high availability and disaster recovery?
Charlie. High availability prevents failure. Disaster recovery responds to failure.
All right. Does anybody else think otherwise? Hey, let's see. Yep. High availability prevents failure, and disaster recovery responds to failure. So, what I was saying earlier, high availability mitigates. Disaster recovery is what you actually do after, and it's used to recover.
Yeah, I mean, you still had a failure in high availability, but you have the architecture that prevents that from being passed on to the customer, right?
Yeah.
It prevents it from becoming a disaster. Right?
Yeah, right.
Question 5, which AWS service would help with a DNS failover in a multi-region setup? Three. B.
B. Yeah.
Let's go ahead and see. Yep, it is Route 53. It can route users to healthy regions and support failover routing. So the key term over here was DNS failover, and that is for Route 53. So summary, you now understand the 4 main disaster recovery strategies: backup, pilot light, warm standby, and multi-site. How RTO/RPO impacts strategy selection, and the difference between high availability and disaster recovery, and which AWS service supports resilient, recoverable infrastructure. Any questions on lesson 3?
Yeah, just a quick one, Eric.
Yep.
For these strategies, backup and restore, pilot light, warm standby, and multi-site, there's not a specific tool that you sort of click to turn on pilot light. You use a collection of the tools that they suggest help you accomplish that. But you have to architect this. There's no like easy button to say, okay, make me a warm standby in another region and like hit the button and it'll just replicate a scaled down version of your environment in another region, right? There's not a tool associated with warm standby.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
that correct statement? Okay.
Yeah. It's pretty much based on your knowledge. If you are a solutions architect or something and you're trying to build an infrastructure, you gotta pretty much look at the business's needs to determine what setup or what strategy you would need.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
Yep. Any other questions? Okay, we'll go ahead to the next lesson, lesson 4. So lesson 4 speaks on cost optimization and sustainability. We will be diving into these 2 pillars, and you'll learn how to avoid waste, right size your architecture, and reduce the environmental impact of cloud workloads. So for the cost optimization pillar, the pillar is about maximizing business value. So key phrase, maximizing business value while minimizing unnecessary spend. So if you see spend, it's probably cost optimization. Core practices, right sizing resources, don't over provision. So whenever you're setting up EC2 instance, for example, You guys remember how we have like free tiers, which is like T3 micro. That's how you would set up the size of your EC2 instance. So uh you can so the T3 micro is a pretty small server, so uh it could be the right EC or the right type to go with for smaller intensive workloads. And then you could also do it or make an EC2 instance for a large or something. But if you make an EC2 instance for a large and you have very low traffic or something, then you're just losing money pretty much. So it's it's not it's a good thing to know what right size you need for your EC2 instance so that you don't over provision and you can save as much money as you need. So all of these pretty much based on the business needs. It's all really figuring out uh what best resources to use and uh correct provisioning and correct size, all that. So another core practice is use auto scaling to adjust with demand. This for high availability. So for auto scaling, you can't necessarily update a certain EC2 instance size automatically, but you can manually have your auto scaling group create the new instance with the new size and get rid of the old one for vertical scaling. So horizontal scaling is pretty much the difference between horizontal and vertical scaling. Vertical scaling would be if you're in T3 micro and you're trying to scale it up to have a bigger size to like I don't even know at the top of my head what the different sizing types are in EC2, but let's say like T3 large instead of T3 micro. That would be vertical scaling. Horizontal scaling is you can think about it having an EC2 instance and then you're kind of like cloning it, creating more EC2 instance. You can go from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. That's vertical scaling. So uh like I said, with auto scaling, you can't necessarily vertical scale, but you can have the auto scaling group create you a new instance with a larger size and then get rid of your old one. That's how you would do it with auto scaling group. And that's just for you guys information. So turn you can also turn off idle resources. So resources that aren't in use, just you don't delete it, but just like you shut it off. And you can use savings plans or reserved instances. So a reserved instance is a reserved EC2 instance. It's a billing option that lets you commit to using a specific EC2 instance type in a region for a fixed period. Usually it's like 1 or 3 years in exchange for significant cost savings compared to on-demand pricing. Savings plan is another flexible pricing model that lets you save money on AWS compute usage like EC2, Fargate, or Lambda in exchange for commitment to a consistent amount of usage measured in money per hour or dollars per hour for 1 or 3 years as well. It's similar to reserved instances, but it's more flexible. You can kind of think about it using an analogy for booking a hotel. So for reserved instances, you book a specific room for a year. So you book a specific EC2 instance type. So that'll be cheaper per night. And then for a savings plan, you commit to a certain hotel instead of a room, uh, and you commit to a certain budget per night. So you can switch rooms anytime and the discount still applies. So for savings plan, you are setting a dollar amount for your budget. And reserved instance, you don't and you reserve a specific instance type instead. So again, savings plan is you're pretty much setting a budget for how much money you want to spend for 1 to 3 years. And then reserve instance, you're reserving a specific instance type for 1 to 3 years, which will also help you lower your cost. Any questions on that? Okay. Another core practice for cost optimization is storing infrequently accessed data in S3 Glacier or intelligent tiering. We went over S3 buckets earlier, so again, we'll just quickly touch on it again. So so we have S3 standard, which is for frequently accessed data. We have S3 intelligent tiering, which automatically moves data between tiers based on access patterns. And we have S3 standard IA, which IA stands for infrequent access. It's for data accessed less often. And then we have S3 Glacier slash Glacier Deep Archive for archiving data. And then use S3 lifecycle policies is another core practice to automate storage class transitions. So going back to S3 lifecycle policy and the difference between that and S3 intelligent tiering. So S3 intelligent tiering is fully automated by AWS. So it'll move data for you to the different buckets based on AWS's configuration. And then for lifecycle policy, it is configured by you, the user itself, or the customer based on a set of rules you configured. So that'll also move data to different buckets. Key AWS services to help with following best practices for the cost optimization pillar is AWS Budgets, Cost Explorer, Trusted Advisor, EC2 auto scaling, and S3 lifecycle policies. Sustainability. So now we're going to go into sustainability pillar focused on environmental responsibility. So core practices, select sustainable regions powered by renewable energy. Use Graviton processors for energy efficient compute. Design serverless or managed workloads, so Lambda or Fargate. Optimize compute and storage usage, like reducing idle time, and archiving unused data with Glacier or offline storage. And then AWS has a green initiative. AWS is on a path to 100% renewable energy usage. Use the customer carbon footprint tool for reporting. So whenever you see minimizing environmental impact, it's the sustainability pillar. We have cost optimization and sustainability, cost optimization, right sizing resources, auto scaling, and savings plans to help you. Sustainability, choosing sustainable regions like US West 1, using managed service and reducing waste. So for our practice questions, number 1, which AWS feature helps reduce storage costs for infrequently accessed data?
A.
Let's see what it is. Yep. S3 lifecycle policies, they automate the movement of data to cheaper storage tiers like Glacier. What's one way to minimize environmental impact in an AWS workload?
Gravitron processors.
Yep. Use Graviton processors. Graviton is optimized for both performance and energy efficient. So if you see Graviton and environmental impact, they're pretty much always linked. When I took the exam, I didn't even get any questions on Graviton, but just make sure you know this. Which service provides insights into how much AWS costs and where savings can be made?
Cost Explorer.
Let's go check. Yep, Cost Explorer shows usage patterns and spending trends to help control costs. What does AWS recommend for archiving data with minimal ongoing cost?
S3 Glacier.
S3 Glacier. Let's check. Yep, it's designed for long-term archival storage at very low cost. So if you see archiving data and you see some S3 buckets, it'll be Glacier. Think about it like glaciers are, think about it like ice and how it stores. That's one way to like it freezes. It can freeze something for thousands of years. That's just how you can think of it. Which of these aligns most with cost optimization pillar?
C.
Let's see what it is. Yep, turning off idle EC2 instances. This reduces unnecessary cost and is a direct cost optimization strategy. So in summary, you now understand what the cost optimization pillar promotes: right sizing, reducing idle resources and storage efficiency, how the sustainability pillar encourages greener, more efficient AWS usage, and which AWS service and exam phrases point to each pillar. Are there any questions for lesson 4? Okay, we'll go ahead for lesson 5, our final lesson. So final review strategy. You've covered all the major topics. Now it's time to sharpen your exam mindset. This lesson will help you prepare for the exam by reviewing exam strategy, tricky concepts, and the most important takeaways from the course. You'll also get a curated glossary of tested terms, key reminders, and your final practice questions. So exam strategy, think like AWS. The exam tests how AWS thinks, not just definitions. So to help you with that, choose the most secure option. MFA, IAM roles, encryption. Avoid over provisioning. You can see right size, use serverless or spot instances. Focus on resiliency and scaling. So you can see multi-AZ, auto scaling, or managed services. And trust AWS managed services unless told otherwise. When in doubt, go with least privilege, least cost, and most secure. Common pitfalls and tricky topics. So let's go over the mistake on one side and better thinking on the other. So for mistake, choosing EC2 when Lambda works. Better thinking is instead think about use serverless when possible. A mistake in ignoring shared responsibility model. Better thinking is know what you secure versus what AWS does. Mistake confusing EFS versus S3 versus EBS. Know when to use block, object, or file. So I think EFS stands for Elastic File Storage. S3, I don't even remember at the top of my head what S3 stands for. And then EBS is Elastic Block Storage. So EFS is for files, S3 objects, and then EBS is blocks, so big blocks of data. Mistake forgetting about trusted advisor, better thinking, real-time practice guidance. So that's what trusted advisor will help you with. Mistake choosing elastic load balancer, better thinking, use application network, classic gateway load balancers. Final practice questions. Which AWS services should be considered for building applications in a fully serverless architecture? Select 3.
Is it?
Lambda,
Yeah, go ahead.
fully serverless architecture.
Fargate.
Lambda, Fargate, and DynamoDB.
All right. Anybody have any different answers? Let's go ahead and see. Yep, it is B, C, and E. Lambda, Fargate, and DynamoDB. EC2 and EBS requires server management, and the others are serverless or managed compute/storage. So, yep, that is correct. Just when you see these terms, think about serverless. These are all different resources. Think about serverless. So Lambda, Fargate, and DynamoDB. A company is using AWS Trusted Advisor for best practices. Which issues will it flag?
I think low utilization on EC2 instances, B, open access, probably C, open access S3 buckets.
Anybody have any other answer choices?
Then
Yeah,
maybe D.
this one is tricky because
Oh,
yeah,
we only get to pick one, right?
yeah. AWS servers. So which one you want to go with?
Man, I would just guess on this one. Uh, hold on. C.
Yep, we can rule this one out.
Yeah, it couldn't possibly know about you changing something on your code.
Low utilization on EC2 instances. I
I'm
mean,
gonna go with
I
Delta.
guess
That's
for
my
this
guess.
one, you said so we have C and Delta.
I
Yeah.
said, oh, go ahead. I said Charlie.
Okay. And then who said Delta?
That's me,
That's-
Troy.
Yeah, for B, I think we can rule this one out too, because I mean a low utilization is pretty good. Unless like you have like a massive server or something, then that'll mess up your cost optimization. This one kind of touches on security, same as this. And then if there's a, I don't think Trusted Advisor will let you know if there's a service outage. You'll probably get that notification from like CloudWatch monitoring or something, so from some alerts. So I don't think it's E either. So let's check if it's C or Delta. Oh, okay, I guess. Okay, I
Oh, we're
guess.
supposed to choose more
Yeah,
than one.
choose.
Okay.
Okay, so I mean, you guys both got C and D correct, and I guess it is B as well. So B, C, and D. So it checks cost, security, and performance. So I guess whenever you see a question on Trusted Advisor, just think about the six pillars, and uh if it's a multiple choice or something, just think about one of the six pillars and how it relates to those answers. So this is an example of how the questions are a little bit tricky. Uh, just doesn't need to be changed and say select multiple or select three. But yeah, AWS the questions on the exam can be tricky depending on how it's worded and all that. Okay, Media Store Incorporated needs file system style access from EC2 to files stored in S3. Which service should they use?
B, but it's a guess.
You're thinking B? Any other answers? Anybody want to throw up? Let's go ahead and check. Yep, S3 file gateway. This provides a file-based interface to S3 buckets using SMB NFS protocols. So the key terms to look in the question for is file system style access, and then files stored in S3. So that's how.
Yeah, because S3 knocks out C, D, and A.
Yep.
Because yeah, EFS is different from S3. EBS is not S3, and I don't Transit Gateway is a completely different service.
Yep. So that moving on to question 4, what types of load balancers does AWS offer? Select all that apply.
Oh, this is that tricky one.
I'll
So is it BCD or is classic load?
tell you there should be 3.
Yeah, BCE.
BCE. Okay, got BCE from 2 people. Let's go ahead and check it. Oh, B, C, D, and E. Oh, okay.
Whoa.
There's 4. Okay, so we have the application load balancer, network load balancer, classic load balancer, and gateway load balancer. Application network.
Oh,
I think they were phasing out the classic load balancer. Oh,
yeah.
yep. Here it is. So yeah, classic load balancer is the older one, and then you have the newer 3 load balancers right here. So it is 4.
I guess our previous lesson, like last week or earlier in the week, for some reason emphasized 3. So I was really only thinking of 3.
Yeah, I've always only really seen these 3. I knew that the classic load balancer existed, but I thought it was gone, so I guess they still have it.
Yeah.
All right. Number 5, which service should you choose to store semi-structured data with single-digit millisecond response times at any scale?
Dynamo.
Dynamo, any other guesses? Let's check. Yep, DynamoDB, designed for key value or document-based workloads at high speed. For learning about the different databases, I don't really have a good way to remember the differences. So just my best recommendation, just learn what each one does, to be honest. Just memorize it. Which AWS service allows automated compliance tracking of configuration changes across AWS resources?
AWS config.
AWS config. Any other guesses? Yep, AWS config tracks resource configuration history and compliance. So whenever you see tracking configuration in AWS resources, that's most likely going to be config. And then CloudTrail is for the tracking user activity itself. A company wants to track login attempts and API activity across AWS accounts. Which service helps?
I would
This is the
say,
Cloud Trail.
say again, Troy?
Delta Cloud Trail.
We got
That's what I
CloudTrail.
would say as well.
Okay. Any other different guesses? Let's go ahead and see. Yep, CloudTrail provides a log of API calls and login events for audit and compliance. So again, config is for resources. CloudTrail, so login attempts, API activity, AWS accounts, that will be CloudTrail for the account/user itself. What benefit does AWS organizations provide?
B.
B, any other guesses? Yep, it is consolidates billing and applies policies to multiple accounts. AWS orgs lets you manage multi-account structure and permissions centrally. So this doesn't make sense. This does not make sense with the encryption. And then this could make sense, but just think about consolidates. Consolidates billing and applies to multiple accounts. I guess, consolidates multiple accounts, key terms. Number 9, a company needs a dedicated physical server for compliance, which EC2 option fits.
D.
We got D. Anybody have any different guesses?
Because on demand is like what you get by default when you run an EC2.
Mm-hmm.
Spot is basically saying, hey, when you have extra compute, I want to run this thing and it can be interrupted.
Mm-hmm.
Reserved is, hey, I want an EC2 instance for, a period of time, but it's not dedicated to me. And a dedicated host, I think, is when you have like sensitive data and you don't want anyone else on your machine, then you pay more for it, but you get a more secure dedicated host, right?
Yep. Yep. Exactly. Spot on. So it provides hardware isolation for licensing or compliance needs. 10, which of the following helps reduce data transfer costs between services in the same region?
Charlie?
Okay, we got a Charlie. Any other guesses? Let's go ahead and see. B, VPC
Ah!
endpoints. So VPC endpoints allows private communication, reducing transfer costs. So
Yeah.
load balancing kind of deals more with traffic. You can think about it that way. And since you see I don't even know how to explain this, but yeah, it is VPC endpoints. So I guess you can look at
Can I try to guess?
yeah.
So when you set up a VPC, Amazon has all the actual wires and stuff in their centers, in their warehouses, all that. And what you're doing is you're setting up literally a virtual private cloud, which allows things inside that cloud to talk to each other directly instead of going out to the general internet and then coming back in to get to each other. So I assume it's a much more efficient way, much more private way to communicate between machines, which would reduce costs.
Yeah, I think that's a good explanation.
Yeah, that sounds good, Nick. And I'm gonna just copy your test when you take it, so let me know.
If you saw some of my scores, you wouldn't be saying that.
All right. Question 11. What AWS support plan is required for access to a technical account manager?
It's enterprise.
Any other guesses?
Yeah.
We got 2. Let's show the answer. Yep, only the enterprise plan includes a TAM for strategic guidance. Which AWS service can automatically adjust compute capacity to match demand?
Is it Bravo?
You said Bravo?
Yeah.
Yep, we got 1 Bravo.
I agree.
Any we got you said B 2, Nick. All right, we got
Correct.
2. So yep, it is the auto scaling. It dynamically adjusts EC2 instance counts based on policies or metrics. Again, this is horizontal scaling. What pricing model requires no upfront commitment and is best for unpredictable workloads?
Spot?
We got Bravo. Any other guesses? On demand, you pay per use with maximum flexibility, though at a higher cost.
That
So
was my second guess. Dang it.
yeah, so the key phrase here is no commitment, no upfront commitment. But I see why you picked spot instances because it is also best for unpredictable workloads, but you also gotta look at this phrase right here, no upfront commitment for on demand because you need it when you need it. Which AWS service gives best practice checks for fault tolerance, security, and cost optimization?
Bravo.
Bravo. Any other guesses? Yep, trusted advisor offers real-time advice across 5 key categories, including cost and performance. Well, it should be 6. I guess it didn't have the reliability. Uh, Here are additional 6 questions that we can go, or that's 5. All right. No, actually, okay. So, which AWS service lets you centrally manage permissions across multiple AWS accounts?
AWS organizations.
We got Charlie. Any other guesses?
Ooh.
It is
Oh man.
Bravo, IAM Identity Center. Uh, so formerly AWS SSO, it's used to centrally manage user access across multiple AWS accounts and applications.
Yeah, I heard centrally manage and my brain lost over permissions.
It-
Centrally managing accounts like the billing and stuff like that is
yeah,
organizations, I think. But for permissions, they have the
yeah,
IAM identity center for the
yeah,
permissions.
yeah. Through the permission policies. So if you see permissions, just like what Nick was saying, it's a IAM. This one is a tricky one because it also has IAM and then IAM identity center. So at the top of my head right now, I cannot remember the difference, but if we go through the console and click around, uh, I remember it. But yeah, this one is a tricky one, so just know the difference. Which AWS storage option is best for long-term data archiving that is rarely accessed?
I would say Glacier. S3 standard is definitely not. EFS, not for long-term storage data archiving, and EBS definitely not. So
Yeah,
it's got to be Charlie.
all right, we got Charlie. Yep. Designed for archival storage with low cost and retrieval delays. Perfect for compliance or backup archives. So again, data archiving, it's probably going to be Glacier if you see that option. A company wants to automate infrastructure deployment using code. Which service should they use?
Is it Bravo?
We got Bravo. Any other guesses? Yep. It enables infrastructure as code. Define your AWS resources in text, so YAML or JSON, and deploy them repeatedly. Which of the following reduces latency by serving content from edge locations?
Delta.
We got CloudFront. Any other guesses?
Yeah.
We got 2. Show it. Yep, CloudFront is AWS's CDN or content delivery network that delivers content via edge locations closer to the user for low latency. So it kind of caches. What's the main difference between Amazon RDS and DynamoDB?
Bravo.
We got Bravo. Any other
Yeah,
guesses?
second that.
All right, we got
Well, RDS is serverless. DynamoDB is not. I agree.
yep,
No.
because it's not
That's
Charlie
backwards.
because yeah,
Right.
yep.
Charlie's backwards. RDS is, wait, has a server. DynamoDB is serverless,
Yep, exactly.
right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so yep, it is Bravo. RDS supports relational data. DynamoDB supports NoSQL. This is a key classification tested on the exam, structured versus unstructured data. One thing to note too is just like when we have went through the past questions, just taking note of what it is because it can help you later on with the future questions you are taking uh, on solving it. So earlier we saw how DynamoDB is serverless. We were looking at Lambda and Fargate for that question. So that helped us uh, say that C is not a correct answer. Which AWS service allows real-time monitoring and can trigger alarms based on thresholds?
Bravo.
Bravo.
We got Bravo, two Bravos. Let's see. Yep, CloudWatch collects metrics, logs, and alarms. It's the go-to service for monitoring and alerting. So good job, guys. Final assignment, take your full-length practice exam and review any missed questions carefully, track which topics cause hesitation, and revisit those in the glossary below. So before I let you guys go to take an exam, core cloud practitioner vocab is Amazon EC2, virtual servers, S3, object storage, EBS, block storage like a hard drive, EFS, file storage across multiple EC2s, RDS, relational database service, DynamoDB, NoSQL database, Lambda, serverless functions, Fargate, serverless containers. For networking and content delivery, VPC, virtual network environment, Route 53, DNS and domain routing, CloudFront CDN for fast global delivery, Direct Connect, dedicated line to AWS, VPN, encrypted tunnel to AWS, Transit Gateway, connects multiple VPCs and on-premise networks. Security, we have IAM for control access to AWS resources, MFA, two-factor authentication, encryption, data protection, WAF, web application. See, that's what I'm saying. This should be well-architected framework. Or
I think it's
okay, yeah,
both. They use
yeah,
that acronym twice.
yeah. Okay, so WAF is web application framework. I guess just when you're taking the exam, try to see if anything has to do with a general concept, bigger scope, or if something has to do with maybe like ports or more network related, then you would notice the firewall. AWS Shield, DDoS protection. AWS Macie, sensitive data discovery. Inspector, vulnerability scanning. Moving on to billing and pricing. So pricing calculator, estimate costs, cost explorer, analyze historical spending, budgets, set limits and get alerts. TCO calculator, compare AWS versus on-premise costs. I've never even seen this. Savings plans, flexible compute discount model, reserved instances, spot, on-demand instances, EC2 pricing models. So different types of EC2s. Monitoring and management, CloudWatch for metrics, logs, alarms, CloudTrail for API activity, logging, config for tracking configuration changes and resources, trusted advisor, real-time best practice guidance. And then the well-architected framework and disaster recovery, there's 6 pillars for the well-architected framework: operational excellence, security, reliability, performance efficiency, cost optimization, and sustainability. Disaster recovery, backup and restore. These are different strategies: pilot light, warm standby, and multi-site. Summary, you now have a solid review of final exam traps and best practices, a set of realistic multi-select questions and explanations, a full CCP specific glossary to scan before test day, and one last full practice exam to lock it all in. Remember, you're not expected to memorize commands. You're expected to recognize the right AWS approach and context. So you guys got it. That is the end of our lecture for today. When I break you guys out, after you take your 15-minute break, just go ahead and take the first exam in the day 4 page. So the well-architected framework exam 1. And then later this afternoon at 1300, after we break out for lunch, go ahead and take this as well. So I'll give you guys I'll let you guys take I'll give you guys a break until 10 a.m. Central. And when you come back, just go ahead and get started on this exam. Sounds good?
Hey
So
Eric, so afternoon is just continue to take practice exams.
yeah, just take one more.
Okay.
See how you did compared to the first time you took that exam. So for this afternoon, just take the second one. And then we also have a third one if you decide to take that. So
Tomorrow.
So, Eric, are you going to pull us together at 1300 and then at the close of class today?
yeah.
Okay.
Yep. All right. Any other questions? So again, after so take your break until 10 a.m. Central, and then take the practice exam. Then at 11 break for lunch, and then 1300 just be back. And then depending on what time we get done, after that you'll work on the second exam. Sounds good with everybody? All right. Let me go ahead and stop sharing and stop recording. I can find the button.